Alba Matter, expounding the virtues of Scottish footballing talent. I'll have a G in McTee with a slice of meatball. Scotland's midfield. Part 1, Billy Gilmour.
He just was like a world-class player. That's what he looked like straight away, and I thought he was one of their experienced lads, and I just thought, listen. And then I just kept a close eye on him for the rest of the game, and everything he'd done throughout the game, it just had quality written all over it. And obviously it looks a small kid, but a big composure about him, and I'm looking forward to seeing him again today.
He looked a world-class player. I'm looking forward to seeing him again today, chimed in effusive Roy Keane. Yes, you heard that correctly. On describing Billy Gilmour's man-of-the-match performance against Liverpool in the FA Cup. 2 hours later, Gilmour stood tall for a post-match interview alongside his relatively enormous World Cup winning teammate, Olivier Giroud. At 5'7", he may be overshadowed physically, not mentally, as Frank Lampard would later contrast. But there was no question that the Frenchman considered his teammate an equal, commenting on his attitude, professionalism and bright future. A constant theme among coaches and teammates. Gilmour delivered a measured interview and picked up another individual award for a similarly incisive performance against Everton, this time in the Premier League, and left smiling, posing for fan selfies with his latest trophy before a member of the backroom staff mused, "We'll need to start calling you Billy Esta." Rewind 4 years to the Deer Green outskirts of Glasgow's northernly suburbs, where you'll find Rangers training facility, Auchenhowie. The coaches, parents and guardians are shuffling out after watching the visit of Kilmarnock Pro Youth, except the customary traffic is reduced somewhat. Many are staying on for the under-17s game to watch another Ayrshire boy, and the stands are now filling with men and women marked by the same excitement and competitive look that accompanies a serious dedication to the sport they love. There was a credible hubbub forming, and the word, or name, which rang in unison through the throng, was Gilmour, the boy from Ardrossan. As it has now been widely reported, a then 15-year-old Billy Gilmour was being watched and tracked by Europe's elite. At every age, it seems, Billy was able to play above his years with a confidence and quality that set him apart from the physically bigger and faster players, often 2 or 3 years his senior, a point that didn't escape his teenage intellect in an interview with the Daily Record. "I'm not fully developed. Scott Brown is by far the best midfielder in the league. He'd bully me for a full game, though maybe, technically, I'd be okay." Far from being okay, it was those technical qualities which set him apart, catching Real Madrid's eye in a Portuguese pre-season tournament where a Rangers team that had also once included Hearts' highly rated Harry Cochrane prevailed over their illustrious opposition. This standout trait was apparent again in the Toulon tournament, as Gilmour won revelation of the tournament when Scotland reached the semi-finals for consecutive years. So it was little wonder when Billy was widely expected to make his debut as the youngest ever Rangers player. This would be quite an achievement for any player, at any club, but 15-year-olds aren't considered for a club the size of the Glasgow Giants without possessing something, well, special. Ultimately, Billy wouldn't grace the Ibrox turf for the first team, following instead in the footsteps of another special one, to Chelsea. There he would work under one of Mourinho's protégés, the then Chelsea under-18 coach Frank Lampard. He debuted for the under-18s and stood out immediately, scoring on his first 3 appearances as a 16-year-old before training with the first team on multiple occasions. A League and FA Youth Cup double followed, as did numerous assists and goals, including a well-drilled volley in the final against Arsenal.
Juan Castillo sent over the cross first time, header away only as far as Billy Gilmour, who sent it back with interest. Chelsea lead with just 11 minutes gone. The perfect start.
Then came the under-23s, and again he shone, dictating the play in the middle of the pitch as a wafer-thin but razor-sharp 17-year-old who was surprisingly tough and accurate in the tackle. Video compilations started to appear with titles like The Art of Passing and comparisons to everyone from Scholes to Xavi in the comment section. The question was, could Billy handle the pressure cooker attention he was gaining from admiring onlookers? If you're not grasping the gist already, he hasn't known anything different. He has always stood out and is now even drawing world class from the most reticent dispenser of compliments. Throughout this, Gilmour has remained seemingly unaffected. With a down-to-earth belief in his own ability, He has left it for others to gush over his progress. In response to presenter Ewan Cameron mentioning this in the Football Daft show, wee Billy, sitting beside his dad, Big Billy, was at pains to say that he doesn't let the hype affect him. He'll sit down with anyone and hangs out with his mates as normal when he's back up the road.
There's a lot expected of you, but you don't appear to let the hype pressure you. Would that be fair to say? You're aware of what people think, you're aware of what people are saying about you, you're doing really well in tournaments, you're playing really well with the Chelsea 23s and that. How do you just get your head down and just play football and not let the outside chat around you affect you?
Just enjoy my football, just wake up every morning, going into training with the best players, and obviously I always speak to my mum and dad and they always keep me grounded. I've always been grounded, my full family, my friends. When I come back on the road, I hardly speak about football with my friends.
See when you become like a £100 million footballer, right, and you get sold to Real Madrid or Barcelona, you're telling me you'd still sit here with me and Grado?
Definitely. Grado.
Such humility and maturity transfer to his game, as Giroud previously outlined, meaning Gilmour is a self-reflective player who works hard on recognising his own areas for development. Fittingly, his coaches all speak of a humble and grounded young man, supported by a very tightly knit family unit. So it was that one of those coaches, on returning to Chelsea as manager, handed Gilmour his Premier League debut against Sheffield United in late August, stating complete trust in the young Scot. Assured performances against Grimsby and Hull respectively followed in the FA Cup before Liverpool, Everton, and the promise of a sustained spell in the Chelsea midfield, given that his direct competition was either suspended or injured, and all that before the man of the match performances. Rather incredibly, in those accumulated minutes across a handful of games, Gilmour has shown enough to challenge the established and classy Italian internationalist Jorginho for the deep-lying playmaker role. Let's pause for a second and surmise that, based upon this evidence, Gilmour can handle the pressure, even thriving the hotter the spotlight becomes. But what of the cause of that pressure? His ability. Have we, the British public, become dizzy with Gilmania for no good reason? Or has he been singled out by seemingly every pundit, article and podcast appropriately? What I'm getting at is, the hype is real and has been accumulating for years and looks ready to continue. So what is it exactly that makes him special? In a conversation with Sky Sports recently, Lampard was asked this very question.
When you train day to day through the season, and Billy was moved over to the first team building a while ago because he just had to. He just trained at such a level day in, day out. People think I threw him in against Liverpool towards the end there, as you said, but he probably deserves to play a little bit earlier in how he was training, and that was probably me being a bit conservative with him. And then the minute he got in there, he showed the replication of that, doing the passing drills right, being the brightest player in training. And he went and did it against Liverpool, and went and did it against the best team in the country.
As a football fan who is as prone as any other to become excited over a young player, it was obviously wonderful to hear this. Yet as a football writer, still, a question remained. What did he do, Frank? Give us the eyes to see.
Basics of receiving the ball, turning it round the corner, making all the right decisions in a game are not easy. The simple things are actually sometimes the hardest, and Billy has those. Okay, the basics. You can now see why Roy Keane likes him, as against Liverpool we could all see that he tracked his man when he pinched the ball from the Senegalese inside his own box, preventing a one-on-one and goal-scoring opportunity. We too can all become guilty of nodding along when a professional footballer speaks of the basics, as if we know what that means. However, surely every professional has mastery over the basics. And if that is the case, then why on earth is that cause for the numerous individual accolades fast accumulating next to Gilmour's PlayStation? Paying attention to the conversation, Lampard and Jimmy Redknapp seemed to speak on a level that appeared so simple, yet as a researcher first and foremost, I know that such discourse can only be shared upon a deep working knowledge of the subject matter. To speak simply and accurately requires a careful distillation of well-minded thought. Some may dismiss this talk as football people slinging monosyllabic cliché, and sometimes that is true. However, we know that not to be the case with Lampard. He thinks a great deal about what he says, and is very measured in his vocabulary and delivery, with his cognitive ability well publicised. He is then able to nod along with his pundit cousin, knowing why turning the ball around the corner, always being available, and putting in a tackle are so essential for a midfielder.
There is something deeper going on, and that can help us to understand what makes Gilmour special. Let's begin by analysing Keane's maxim, track your man, accepting that the former Man United captain knows a thing or two about a top-class midfielder, and let us try to read into what that means. And it probably isn't just running. For such tracking back to be purposeful, incisive, and contribute to play, it first requires excellent positioning, which comes from consistent awareness of space on the pitch and potential developments in play. Simply put, Gilmour is not faster than Mane. Few, if any, are. But because of his diligence in positioning, he was able to anticipate the movement of play and step in at just the right time, preventing a shot on goal, a possible corner, and then retaining possession with a simple pass to the left-back position, drawing applause from the shed end. This apparently simple component of tracking is therefore built upon something else. In seeking this intangible quality, we encounter what is often been described as being one step ahead, having the first yard in your head, or, as Keane put it, football intelligence. Whatever you'd like to call it, the quality is perhaps the key to understanding why Gilmour looks like he has time and space whenever he collects the ball. It is difficult to describe. Few footballers have it, and even fewer 18-year-olds. In short, although apparently simple, it is excruciatingly difficult to describe just why it is so rare and important. This semantic logjam is perhaps helpfully illustrated by Thomas Müller having to invent a phrase, Raumdeuter, to describe his incredibly simple but effective method of playing. Or like the famous Jim White question to Brian Laudrup when he was mesmerising defenders whilst playing for Rangers in Denmark.
Everybody wants to know about your appetite for the game and the skill factor. How come you are so good?
For these players, the game appears effortless, fluid, in control, at ease. They have super fast fibre, while the rest of us are still buffering. Perhaps it is the mark of what makes a player special, and why Keane had to put his cup of tea down and find out who this player was. This space and time that Gilmour's intelligence buys him are the bedrock of everything he does, and any subsequent movements in the play seem therefore smooth, elegant and precise because, like Müller and Laudrup, he is playing the game, not reacting to others. His father, Billy Gilmour Sr., himself an accomplished footballer, recognised this aspect as being important in his son's development from an early age. When wee Billy was training with both Rangers and Celtic supporting Big Billy chose Rangers.
Rangers at Billy's age played brilliant football. They kept the ball, they played through the thirds, they played a football that you want to watch. It was great for his development, the boys in Billy's age group, and it was a good few of them, really top players, but they always wanted the ball and played football, and obviously that helped him be the player he is today.
It is heartening to hear of a father making positive choices which break the mould of the Glasgow Goldfish Bowl, something that happened once before with a certain Rangers supporting Kenneth Dalglish, another whose ability to find space and use it wisely led to, well, you know the rest. Müller, Laudrup, Scholes, Xavi, Dalglish. It's hard not to feel the weight of expectation that accompanies those names, each rightly held as generational talents by their clubs, countries, and even the most oppositional of fans. When Redknapp compared Billy's effortless execution of the basics to Scholes, Lampard fielded the remark skillfully.
Billy's shown early signs of that sort of ability. I'm not comparing him to Scholesy, no way at all. But in terms of those basics that you mentioned, then Billy certainly has them, and that's a great platform to build hopefully a fantastic career.
In the same answer, Lampard mentioned Scholes' transition from attacking midfielder to goal-getter in his youth to world-class deep-line playmaker later in his career. He describes the attacking area of the pitch as cutthroat, where space is tighter. Few know this area of the pitch better than Lampard. And so in this less forgiving context, how has Gilmour performed? Is he just looking good in an area less challenging and less pressured? Two examples in each of the games against Merseyside opposition help to examine this query. Later in the game, Gilmour found himself further forward due to substitutions and tactical adjustments, demonstrating again the trust his manager has of him in the final third. Against Everton, Gilmour was moved forward to support his friend and fellow academy graduate, substitute Tino Anjorin. Seizing a chance to close down a tired Andre Gomez, the still fresh, razor-limbed Gilmour wriggled the ball free and galloped towards goal. Dropping his shoulder, he weighted the ball perfectly for Anjorin, only for a heavy touch and excellent recovery challenge to rob the debutant of a late goal. It was against Liverpool, however, where the watching world gasped audibly, the latest to join the conversation, which began at Auchenhowie. Gilmour, receiving the ball side on to an onrushing Fabinho, and arguably the best defensive midfielder in the league this season, had a split second to react. He could have played the ball square to the advancing Pedro. Instead, he dared what no one could have predicted, and rolled the ball with his studs through the Brazilian's legs, playing his game and shifting the other 21 players' conception entirely, before playing another perfectly weighted pass to Giroud, who managed a shot on goal. When space was tighter, Gilmour applied fight and finesse in appropriate measure. Regarding the nutmeg, commentators were rendered speechless. Dribbling, tackling, carrying, passing. Simple things done well. The basics. Whilst this may only be a glimpse into his talents, we haven't spoken of his passing range, for example, or his dead ball delivery. It is hopefully a balm to soothe the fear that accompanies hype. For all the furore surrounding this young man, he's steady and calm, much like his style of play. The hustle and bustle will continue, but one thing we can rely on is his ability to tune it out and play his own game. He's been doing it since travelling between the old firm with his dad, and moved 417 miles to continue this relentless mastery of the basics. Gilmour seems to know what he is doing and how he can improve, and maybe we should all relax a little, put down our cup of tea and enjoy him, for there is plenty to enjoy. In closing, let's recall what Jamie's dad said all those years ago about a certain teenage midfielder.
I'm telling you now, he will go right to the very top, because he's got everything that's needed to become a top-class midfield player.
Well said, Harry. Well said. Words by Andrew Lane. Read by Finlay Marks. If you enjoyed this article, check out albamatter.com or search @Alba Matter on social media.